Welcome to Soul Embodied Conversations.
We are Tajah
and Rachael Collins,
soul sisters at heart.
somatic psychotherapists and teachers by trade.
I, Tajah, am a cisgender woman, a Black queer mama to two biracial children. I am a poet, musician, dancer, drummer, witch, and equity consultant.
I, Rachael, am a cisgendered female. I'm white, I am queer, and I am autistic. I am a mother of two, a mover, a weaver, a lover of the natural world, and a shamanic practitioner.
Together, we have spent the last few years running the Somatic Counseling Master's Program at Naropa University. Having left academia, we are now setting out to create a more accessible place for folks in the helping professions to practice what it means to be in deep, embodied relationship with hard things.
We're here to share our stories from a place of our embodiment. Our stories rooted in our lived experiences within our identities and our stories that come through from our ancestors. We don't have life figured out by any means, but we are committed to leaning into the uncomfortable parts of being humans in relationship. We hope to inspire others to lean into this messy process of being human in this deeply complex moment to be alive.
We invite you to practice with us. As you listen, notice the moments that might resonate with you and the moments where you feel differently than we do. How can we practice together what it means to pause and breathe through moments that might make us uncomfortable? To notice what is happening internally without needing to judge, fix, or change. Take a deep breath with us and practice coming back to the present moment again and again. In our world that is deeply fractured, how can we learn together to stay with the discomfort that comes up and keep moving towards connection, even when we are on different rhythms, literally and metaphorically?
This is meant to be an immersive, contemplative podcast. We invite you to listen intentionally and step into this practice with us. Even if you're listening while engaging in the daily tasks of your life, which we know you likely are, we invite you to practice infusing magic and mindfulness into every moment as we go.
Hi, Rachel. We are together again on the land, which feels so sweet to be in person. And our topic for today is ritual, which there's a whole lot just even in that word. Like I can feel just like what that word has meant to me historically and what it means now. So yeah, invitation to our listeners just even to notice what it's like to hear the word ritual and like what comes up in all the associations.
Right. What a complex word.
What a complex word. Yeah. And I think just to sort of orient why we wanted to record this conversation now is because we are about to head into the holiday season here in the United States, according to Christianity, at least, like dominant culture holiday season. And there is so much complexity in my system and especially right now in this moment where the government's doing all kinds of weird things. The government was shut down for a long time and then reopened. And I've been seeing lots of stuff around like, well, why, if literally people are not able to eat, people who are on government benefits can't eat, like why would we then invest money back into large corporations in the holiday season? Like what a sham that is and like how ridiculous that feels. And holding like how do we still celebrate, like I think I'll speak for myself, I think maybe other people relate to this, but like so much of the complexity for me as an adult around the holiday season, especially with having kids now, is like what are the traditions that I want to hold on to from my childhood and what are the traditions that I don't really resonate with anymore. And so much of the holiday season in this country feels so driven by capitalism and consumerism and not really connected to any real sense of like connection to the divine or what is sacred. And yet I can feel in myself and in my kids too, like this longing for ritual and like marking the movement of the seasons, the wheel of time, the movement of time. And like, I feel the longing and the craving for the way that ritual holds and creates traditions and holds culture essentially. Like, one thing that my partner and I have been trying to figure out of like, what are our family, what are our family rituals that we want to pass forth to our kids? So just to say for me, I'm like, this is very much holding the question. I don't like have an answer for this, but it feels timely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, timely in the time of the year, timely with what's happening in the collective.
Mhm.
I think also timely with what I feel a calling to like dream into
Mhm.
in the collective.
Yeah.
Is to like really start to examine and rethink and dream into what does it get to look like,
Yeah.
and what is actually satisfying about ritual,
Yeah.
right? So, to our listeners, right, if you're listening so far, one, what does even the word ritual bring up? But also, like, what ways have rituals been in your life? What ways have rituals maybe been hurtful or harmful or deeply supportive and connective and community oriented? Um, Even what rituals might you do on a day to day, right? Do you have repetition in the things that you do on a day to day? Because again, ritual, I think, is a word that holds so many things. It's not just holiday ritual, it's not just sacred ritual, it's routine ritual,
Mhm.
it's connection ritual. It's the word I think can hold a lot. It's a seed
Mhm.
word, yeah,
Mhm.
like a seed of potential.
Yeah. I probably by the time this goes out into the world, it will have passed. But in our future, we are getting ready to host a grief and gratitude ritual, and I would love to hear if you want to share a little bit of like, because this was like a lightning strike moment that came through for you of like, oh, we should do this thing, and I
Mhm.
yeah, I'm curious if you want to share a little bit about where
Yeah.
that came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been sitting with the Thanksgiving holiday for a while and really, in my understanding that the holiday is really essentially celebrating a genocide,
Mhm.
right? It's celebrating the colonizers arriving and killing hundreds of people, hundreds of native folks. And this holiday is really set to kind of commemorate that, even though it's rooted in a time to gather and a time to eat delicious food. And it just doesn't, it's like there's a part of me that like, I love to eat delicious food
Right.
and I love to gather with my
Yes,
people.
exactly. Yeah.
And um but I feel such pain and incongruence in my system of like, of course I don't want to celebrate a genocide. Of course I don't want to celebrate the ways that the native folks of these lands were just brutalized. And yet we also are living within this country, and it's, a quote unquote national holiday where a lot of people get off for the holiday
Yeah.
or things are closed. And, the pacing of life in the United States dramatically changes
Yeah.
on that day.
Yeah.
So there's something about that because that's still deeply rooted in the dominant society, there is like an accessibility of gathering. There's a way in which I feel, yeah, that there's space to like slow down. And of course, it also rubs me that there can't also be spaces yet that are frequent for us to all slow down and gather in community in other moments of the time. But for me, it's like I want to find a way to not just say, oh, let me push that away, let me push this away, let me push that away, but more around how do I hold all of the layers, right, simultaneously, which I'm not saying this is the right way or the only way, right? It's just like this is what
One
I'm in
way.
process around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea was really kind of like began in the complexity that I feel in my own system when we approach this holiday. And the ritual is really a gratitude and grief ritual, and the ritual is meant to hold space for how do we really step into the grief
Mhm.
of this holiday. How do we step into the grief of the reality of the genocide that took place on the lands that we are on right now in the United States, and begin to dream into what the gratitude could be, right? And I don't mean like, oh, I'm grateful for everything that's happening in the collective, because I'm just not, right? I'm more in the stage of grief and rage and the what the fuck kind of mode. And I think gratitude is what comes from when we give space to grieve, right? So thinking about a ritual that can happen in this time of year and leading up to the actual, holiday as we call it in this country, to give space for community to come together in a different way, where we're centering the grief, where we're also, centering gratitude, but not the gratitude that is bypassing the reality, right? That's bypassing the complexity, but gratitude that actually, I believe, can really well when we gather in a way that allows us to be in the present moment, to be held by others, and to grieve together.
Mhm.
So, I want to know a little bit about how ritual existed for you,
Mhm.
Tajah, in your history, in your childhood.
Yeah.
And maybe this also, weaves in your identities.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Where to begin? Yeah, I mean, I think I first want to say that like the word ritual was not really used. Just to be clear, like that wasn't really part of my vocabulary or lexicon until relatively recently. Or it was considered like a bad thing, it was sort of like demonic. My parents, even though there's a complex relationship in myself and in both my parents as far as relationship to the Black church. There's this sort of like approach avoid, I think, for all three of us. Like, um, I can remember over the years sort of like dropping in and out of different churches, especially with my mom. My dad pretty much like let it go, although still very much was in his like the way he thought about, for example, like Halloween, like that I was like not allowed to celebrate Halloween because it was considered demonic by my parents, which is really ironic because they most of the vestiges of that were gone, but that was a strong one for them. So I think for me, the way that ritual looking back in hindsight really showed up was around, like you're saying, it was like the gathering with family. That was the big thing. It was like my parents, like, we didn't even really celebrate Christmas because my dad is very anti-capitalist and like always saw it as consumerist holiday and was like very grumpy about it and still kind of is. But still, like we would go to my grandmother's house and there was a tree and, I would get presents and like the kid doesn't love that. So the ritual of it is like what I remember in my body when I'm gathering with family, both sides of my family as a kid was like music, right? There's always like, even still to this day, like there's particular songs that I'm like instantly port me back to like being in my grandmother's house or my aunt's house or whatever. So it's music, it's food, and it's like just, yeah, the togetherness of all of the people that often I wouldn't see them all year long until, like they're like extended family that I wouldn't see but once a year. So there's a sweetness and a warmth for me around like the big, rituals as far as like holiday season, that time of the year. And then I think the smaller day-to-day rituals, and I guess for me, I'll say I'm curious for you, but the way that I'm sort of distinguishing ritual from routine is like how much intention was infused into
Mhm.
it. And so like, and there's, you could argue what is ritual routine. Like, I don't think it's such a clear cut thing, but even just like thinking about bedtime, like I think about how I lived mostly with my mom for the majority of my time. I'd see my dad on weekends, and so like the ritual of reading me a story, I used to fall asleep to music. So again, there's certain, it's always me, right? There's a certain music that I would listen to as I was falling asleep, or like for a long time as a kid, I would fall asleep with a candle. There's one time, this is a digression, but there's one time where like the candle exploded, and thankfully my mom was awake and like came in. Otherwise, I would have been really bad. So after that, there was no more candles. But I used to love to like fall asleep to soothing music and a candle. And like I have memories of like making up stories and talking to myself. I'd usually have a cat with me on the bed, just like my space, because I was an only child. And so like I have these memories of like the wind down of
Mhm.
of bed that also feel really sweet. And that I have tried to carry forward with my kids. There's complication there for sure around like my level of patience as a mom. And I'm sure my mom had that version of it too. But yeah, so there is this like sweetness, honestly, around it for me, even though, again, it wasn't called ritual. So I think the question for me as I've gotten older and really separated from like I don't identify as a Christian. I that doesn't I have much respect for the teachings of Jesus, but I don't identify with Christianity at all anymore. And the ways in which, even in working with lots of clients who have religious trauma and who have sort of extricated themselves from very harmful religious traditions, it's like, but I miss the, the familiarity of you do this and you do this and then you do this. There's a certain, like, there's a like expectation, and my body remembers and like, oh, yep, I know exactly how to fit it. I know where I belong. I know what I'm doing. I know what everybody else is going to be doing. That I find that I miss and that many clients of mine miss too. And so this question of, for me and holding for clients too, of like, what do I want to carry forth? What do I still want to hold on to as far as the rituals? And again, for me, it almost always, it's like, I think it boils down to food, music, people.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it really, and again, this infusion of like intention, that as I've gotten older, I can hold that, I try to hold that for my kids too. As a kid, I don't think, I wasn't really holding that, but as an adult, holding the container of like some sort of intention.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, what's coming up for me in like these aspects of what have been components of ritual for you is how much also that's not only historically rooted in religion, but also culture,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Like, because for me, I'm just like, oh yeah, food.
Right.
Totally food.
Right.
Certain foods for certain rituals, like certain, and I also did not have the language of ritual growing up. I was definitely raised with sort of a combination of some Jewish rituals and some Jewish holidays, and then also some Christian holidays. And I don't ever remember, and this could just be my lack of memory, so I don't want to, say that it definitely wasn't there, but I don't remember there being a component of connection to the divine in any of the family rituals. It was more like, this is how we gather, and here's the food that's present, and here's the time of the year that we do it. And depending on the holiday, here's the consumer kind of driven aspect of it, right? Christmas, here are the gifts. Easter, here are the baskets with lots of candy, right? Like Hanukkah, here are the presents and the lights and the latkes and so I have memories, but I also have memories of like a longing to like not just to understand, but to like feel like, why are we doing this? Like, what is this? Like, and I'm sure, like, of course, there are like many, many, many Christians out there who know and are teaching the reasons for these holidays. I'm just speaking about my own personal experience, but yeah, I remember viscerally feeling the longing, and the longing even as I was preparing to have kids for the first time. Like when I was like longing to become a mother, I remember it was like one of the primary things that I was thinking about pre getting pregnant was like, and what are the rituals? Like, what are the things that I'm gonna build and maintain for my kids? Because I just remember having that longing in such a loud sort of way. Now being where I am with my spiritual practice, it makes a lot of sense retroactively. I'm like, oh yeah, I was longing to come into my spiritual practice, the one that is, my soul call. But then I didn't know. All I knew was that I had a longing. There's got to be something more here. Yeah. So again, it was all about people, food, not so much music. Like I think there was music maybe there, but like in my very like white family, like definitely not like definitely like I had because my family was also I had a couple of different families. So I had some families that had a certain quality of loudness and directness, like very East Coast, Long Island vibe. So lots of, lots of loudness, and talk and vibrancy, but not necessarily music. What else? Yeah, so I think it just like the longing is what I want to invite folks to maybe think about for a moment. Like, have you ever felt a longing to commune, right? Because I think now in my spiritual practice, what I've learned about ritual from a shamanic perspective, from an animistic perspective, is very much that like ritual is simply the act of connecting, right? It's like, yes, intention, yes, still food, yes, still people, yes, still all the things, but it's about that, like, I feel like I might be misquoting this, but like in how I've learned a yoga practice, like the word yoga means to
Right.
yoke,
Right.
right?
To bring together two things.
To bring together, and ritual is so much about just simply being in a state where I am wandering and literally in a ritual state because I've set the intention, because I have like brought in whatever elements of the ritual are called for, but the ritual itself is a matter of sensing and feeling and communing, to yoke, right? To be with.
Right.
And when we look at ritual in that way, I think we can actually create ritual wherever you are. Like, it doesn't actually have to look any particular way. And I'm sure there are so many people that will disagree with me on that statement, but we can have ritual for specific purposes that are rooted within your lineage,
Right.
within your ancestry, within your identity, within your culture, within your belief system. And that can be very particular and prescriptive. Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. And also, I think there's so much potential to be in a space of ritual that just is a process of being with.
Yeah.
Being with the natural world, being with another human, being with a rhythm maker, being with like whatever, but also with intention, as you're saying. Yeah. So inviting you all to really start to think about, what's your longing? Do you have a longing? Is it a longing to do, this dominant culture holiday season in a different way that starts to try to challenge the consumer capitalistic way that we've been really conditioned in the United States to do ritual and holiday season? Or is it, what is it? What is it for you? What's the longing?
Yeah, I love this, like the bringing together. It reminds me too, I don't remember where I learned this or heard this. I apologize because I can't give credit, but that in its simplest form, an altar is simply a space to come and connect with,
Yes.
to access the more than human world, whatever you believe that to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like our ritual starting the podcast is literally to acknowledge every little piece, some water,
The
some
elements.
fire, right? Our medicine, air, sacred space, dear sheep, dragon. Every single time we sit down to record something, we step into the ritual of intentionality. Please, elementals, please, spirit guides, be here in the process with us, or let us just simply say hello.
Right.
Yeah. Like, as a therapist and a shamanic practitioner, every day, and I say every day, my intention is to do it every day, and I probably get there like 8 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 days. So this is not about perfection. Yeah. It's about accessibility for me. But my ritual before I start my day of seeing clients is to take my bowl of water that's in my office and I go and I visit the creek and I pour the water out into a plant, water the plant, and then I go down to the creek. I get a new bowl of water. I say thank you to the creek. I do a little spirit kind of check in with the creek and with some of my helping spirits while I'm making contact with the water. I bring it back in. I light my candle. I drum. I sit down to welcome a client. Yeah. So it's not like, for me, the ritual is just the ritual of arriving.
Yeah.
Right. In that sense. And it's just what feels right. Right. So I think sometimes when I'm talking about ritual to other people, they're like, oh, maybe I can do it wrong. Or maybe I am going to mess this up or bring something negative towards me, or right. All the fear I think that can come up when we start to think about what's a ritual. So for me, it's very much about, how do I locate myself in an embodied presence so that I can ask?
Yeah.
Right? So that I can ask, what's the ritual for today? What makes sense for this particular moment in time?
Yeah. I love that. And I want to hear more from you about this, but I will say for myself, because I'm not following in my parents' footsteps around how I create ritual in my day-to-day life. I am very much learning from my ancestors in the spirit realm and my spirit guides. And since I have started to loosen more around this thing you're naming of like, can I do it wrong? And like, no, just go with what feels right and ask. Like, you can always ask. There have been more and more moments recently where, not always, but often it comes through really clear of like, when you ask, here's the thing. Like there was I think I might have told you about this. There was a moment where Jamie and I were in a rupture, and I was like having really intense feelings, and went to my ancestors and spirit guides for some support around how to come back together and soften. And it was this was the first time I got like a really clear, it was like, do this and this and this, and then say these words and this play. It was like, whoa, okay. And I did. And essentially it was just, the intention was like, one, how do I soften? Two, how do I come back into connection with my partner? And it was so clear, and it was simple. It was simple, but it was like, do this and then do this and then do this and then say these things. And when I did it, it was like, oh wow, okay, thank you. Like that was what I needed. So I just, again, I want to hear from you about this too, but like the ways of being open to trusting what's coming through from my guides and my ancestors, and what feels right in the moment and what is needed right now. And just trusting that, like really learning from them, and trying to let go of the like, you can do it wrong kind of thing. But
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
I think it's a really complex thing that you're talking about right now around doing it wrong, because I think there are a lot of cultural traditions and practices that will say, like, there is a
Don't
wrong
do
way.
this. Right. Yeah.
Don't do it that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't necessarily think that, I'm not trying to say that that's
Right.
bad, right? Like, if that's the lineage that you come from, inviting you to honor what you've been taught, if it still feels in alignment for you, right? There's such, I think, so much wisdom to be learned from the elders in your community or your religious groups if you have connection to those folks that feel good to you. Yeah, I think some of the trust that comes within me around trusting what I feel is that I have a lot of trust in the spirits that I am listening to.
Mm,
And I have a lot of trust within my own embodiment to have a sense of when I can sense how I am receiving clearly versus I'm in a stress response or I'm in a triggered state and my mind might actually not be,
mhm.
in shamanic practice, we say like my mind might not be the hollow bone.
Right.
It might not be really,
Clear,
taking and
open.
clear and open. So I think that's where a lot of the trust comes for me in getting more specific details about holding ritual. But I also feel like, connection to your own intuition, regardless of whether or not you have a connection to particular spirits in the spirit realm, intuition, I think, is a part of that, right? Like, where is that intuition coming from? I think is the question. And it's the question that my teacher Sue Feathers, I think, would probably ask, and
Mhm.
has asked me many times, like, okay, well, where do you think that comes from? And but even if you don't know, I think it's still okay to tune in and say, okay, what's my intuition here? So I think another way that, like, I often think about ritual that, now in this moment, what's coming to me is that I think this has actually helped me and develop trust in ritual
Mm.
is actually through it's actually through this deep exploration of my neurotypes. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, because as a multiply neurodiverse human, ritual is very important to my life. Like, my brain, just to like give like to try and really like capture an image, is like a multi-dimensional map that goes across time and space. Like,
Mhm.
and if I don't have routine and ritual in my life, woo, I have zero sense of time. I have like, what do I have to do today? Like, zero ability to like hold my feet on the ground and actually be like, oh, I have 5 clients today, right? Like, there's zero capacity for that in my brain without something outside of my body. So, and with these competing, I like to think they feel competing to me, not quoting the science literature on this, but like the autistic part of me very much is like, oh, I like same, same. this again and again and again. I mean, literally to the point where like I'll brush my hair, I don't brush my hair. I like brush my teeth, do my hair, like put the oil on, like all in the same order, because otherwise I'll forget a step, right? So there's a way in which routine and ritual in that regard has very much stemmed from, well, let me figure out how to be a human that engages with the world on this earth. But then I also have this very like spontaneous, like part of me that needs things to change. And so I've had this relationship to ritual and routine around, I know I need it. And then sometimes it just stops working. But if I completely lose it, then I completely lose everything in my day. So I've had to find a way to be able to tolerate changing the routine and finding something new, finding a new way of practicing, finding a new way of engaging in whatever I'm engaging. I have to be able to pivot, because a part of me really needs to pivot. But I also have to find a way to re-find my ritual, because otherwise I'm like out in outer space for the rest of the day. So this relationship to, like, I keep, making a circle with my hands as I think about ritual, because that's really how I think about ritual. It's an ongoing process. And it's not like, ooh, I didn't get the water from the creek today, and therefore I'm like not doing ritual at all. It's like, okay, well, oops, I totally like spent way too long in my house, and now I'm out here and I don't have time to run to the creek. And so I'm just going to like dip my finger in the bowl of water that's right there and take a moment of presence with the water in a smaller way, in a more rushed way, but still in a way that is acknowledging the intention of connection and still is marking some sort of aspect, right? And I find the same thing happens in this grand idea of how I was going to hold ritual for my kids from the very beginning, how I started off the beginning of their lives, like holding and every single, marker of the year. And I was like, this is what we're doing. And now I'm just like, holy shit. Yeah, I'm not doing everything in every moment. Right. But to me, again, it's about this balance of what's the intention, what's the ritual, what's the again and the again, and what's the drop of the perfection. Right. What's the invitation of just meeting the present moment. And when we meet the present moment, I think we have access to receive guidance from the more than human world.
Cool. Yeah. I love learning more about your brain. Yeah. I feel like I don't know, this question is still forming, so bear with me, but I feel like I want to ask you about, because there's ritual, like, yes, I think we have access to ritual at any time. There's this joining, this meeting of the more than human world, of connection to spirit, connection to nature and land. What happens when you bring humans into the mix? Like, that's where I feel, I don't know, it gets messy. We're messy humans, just like, I don't know. I've
Yes, totally. Totally. Yes. What happens is that we then have to meet the moment of the messiness, like I think about like me, I was like doing this like Seder Passover ritual with my kids when they were young, and they would not participate. Like my oldest son, like I don't remember, and I might be combining memories here, but at one point I was like hiding the matzah, and my son was just like, I don't care about the matzah, like, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Let's adjust.
Oh,
right?
children.
So, right. But like, children are extra messy.
Yeah.
But the adults are messy just
too.
more on the inside,
Right.
and starting to maybe let it out a little bit more, right? So like I think we need the messiness, and that's sort of the point, right? It's like when I think about what my ancestors have taught me about ritual, it's very much like, stop trying to ask us for all the details of the ritual. Here's the intention. Here's the like general framework. Now come into presence, right? Like with my kid who's like, I don't fucking care about, I mean, he didn't say fuck, thank goodness. Too. He might be now because I say it all the time. But it's like, I don't care about the matzah. And I could be like rigid and be like, but we have to find the matzah. Or I could say, oh, and take a deep breath and laugh it off and then be like, okay, and why did I want to hide the matzah to begin with? Right. And what is like, how do I pull the nugget from the intention and actually root down into the present moment? Yeah. So, like, yeah, messiness.
Yeah.
But I think it's not about excluding the messiness. It's actually about inviting the messiness more.
Yeah.
Because the present moment is messy.
It is. It sure is.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
we might try to want to like be out into the future thinking and all in our rigid control, but that's not present. Like, when you're actually in the present moment, it's wild. It's unpredictable. You're sitting with the fear of, I don't fucking know what's going to happen right now. And my kid might throw a fit, and like this person might not want to be in the ritual, or this person might have, a disagreement with me over what I'm saying within the ritual. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But the container of the ritual gets to hold the messiness, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the like contained, rigid mind that wants to control everything and that facade of having a container with that, right? It's more like, what is the actual start, middle, and end of the ritual itself? And can that actually hold space for the messiness?
For the messiness, yeah.
And the unpredictable nature of the ritual. That's where the magic, the mystery emerges.
Yeah, that feels so important and is a good reminder. I'm like, yes, yep, I do know this. And yeah, I feel like, as a budding ritualist, you, um, and in starting to include and hold other humans in that. I mean, not starting to, that's what we've been doing with our groups this whole year, but still more explicitly with this unity ritual that we're doing in a little bit. I feel, it just feels like a good reminder of like, what is the container that is strong enough to hold all of the unknown? Like, that feels like such an important part of ritual and meeting the moment and leaving space for the mystery and the magic and the unknown to show up.
Right. So, as you're thinking about what rituals you want to bring into this time of the year, a part of the container of the ritual might be prayer, might be scripture, might be a very particular set of things that you've learned in your lineage around what rituals go where, right? And amazing. Can that be a part? And can there also be space for the mystery? Can there also be space for the embodied presence? Can there be space to listen, right? Can there be space to actually check in with the land, check in with your ancestors? Like, what can we dream in to bring into what already exists for you? Or what can you be dreaming in to bring into what maybe feels like a vast abyss of not feeling connected at all to ritual? But what's your intention? Right? Like, that feels paramount.
Yeah.
What's for each moment of gathering? What's your intention? What's the container? What are the known parts of the ritual? And then where's the space for the dance?
Yeah.
For the dance.
Yeah. Love it. It's both and. This like, there's something about, I imagine for some folks that, different traditions, but it's like, oh, saying these particular words in this particular order or doing this set of steps in this particular order is like hundreds of thousands of years old. And my ancestors have been doing this for so long. And that feels really sacred, So how do we hold that as true and also hold the space for what else wants to be dreamed through us and wants to come through, and like, the both and of what is and what wants to be.
Right. Yeah. Right. Again, because the ritual, I think in the way that you and I are talking about it, is not meant to be bypassing our history.
Right.
It's not meant to be like excluding your lineage or excluding what's been true for you so far in this lifetime. It's about, right, like weaving them all back together, these layers, and including them. So, dear listeners, I invite you to like spend a moment after you pause this podcast and maybe take a moment with a journal and think about, like, what are the intentions that you want to bring to this particular time of the year? And could that potentially be held in a space of ritual to, again, not, exclude, but to layer in, right? To add in to what's alive in this particular time of the year for you and your community, your family.
Yeah. And, if you want to let us know, I'm like, I would love to hear if people actually like take this invitation.
Mm-hmm.
You can email us or reach out. I'm like,
Yeah.
this feels like we're co-creating something. So
Mhm.
the invitation, if folks want to be in touch about like what came up for them around this whole thing of ritual and exploration, we'd love to hear.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Happy co-creating.
Mhm. We hope you got something useful out of our conversation. If so, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find out more about what we're up to on Instagram at soul_embodied_connections. If you have questions, reflections, or feedback for us, or if you have suggestions about topics that you'd like us to discuss on future episodes, you can email us at info@soulembodiedconnections.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.